Hello, Jamie from InkyandScrappy, sharing with you today another card in my Lawn Fawn's Fangtastic Friends card series, Batty for You. Welcome back to all of my subscribers. If you are new here, please consider subscribing as it helps the channel grow and alerts you when new videos go up on the channel. I did some color matching with my Ohuhus and my Distress Oxides. So I found a color combo that matched the new Uncharted Mariner and Villainous Potion. I decided these two would make a beautiful night sky, and so I'm just blending them onto my background here, kind of, adding a little bit of purple to the corners there and some purples. You will see that I started a new Uncharted Mariner blending foam. I start my new blending foams usually with re-inker because it just makes it so much faster to ink blend. Real time, this panel probably took me about 6 minutes to do the total, and it looks way better in person than it ever does on camera. I don't understand that one, but it is what it is. And then I am bringing in some powdered mica in a silver, and I decided to probably should move that into my splat box since it was going to be heavily splattered. So I added in lots and lots of that silver speckly, fleckly goodness there. And then I will set that off to semi-dry and come back in a little bit. It was not all the way dry. It transferred onto my die cut plates, but that's fine. I had gone ahead and die cut out some of the pieces that I'm going to need for my sliding twist and turn pull tab thingy majiggy here. And then I'm going to cut this down to an A2 sized card base. So I am using a interactive die from MFT Stamps. This one I think is the twist and turn pull tab, or part of the twist and turn pull tab interactive. I will look it up and see if I can find it, because I think I might have like a couple of different sets that I'm working with here. I'm not positive though. So this one is actually a technique or a interactive feature that Laura Duvall did on MFT's YouTube channel. I will list or link that video below. She did a twirling gnome. I have done this style card at least 2 or 3 times in the past. It has been a while though since I have done one like this. So I usually pull that video back up on my phone and kind of reacquaint myself with how to do it, just to remind myself how it's done. I probably should have watched the entire video. This card just kind of did not go as planned. There are many reasons it didn't go as planned. One of them was it's been busy around here. So yeah, I'll get there when I get there, right? So I am using MFT's spinner discs or slide discs. I think it's a spin and slide discs. If you do not have the spin and slide discs, a mini button works very well from Buttons Galore and More. I have used them in the past when I didn't have the little spinny disc. It's basically the same. It's a little bit, the button I think is a little bit thicker and maybe a little bit wider around, like, a little bit wider, but it works about the same. Just to make sure that your hole is big enough and has enough wiggle room. Yeah. Here was where this card started to go off course. You know how when you're making something and it doesn't go as planned and you can't quite figure out where it went wrong? Well, when you video it, you can go back and say, yep, that's where I should have just walked away. At this point in time, I should have just walked away. So I use super heavy cardstock for my pull tabs, like 110-pound card. And then I put 2 of them together, which is like 220 pound cardstock, right? So it's pretty thick. I have really bad arthritis in both of my thumbs. Like, there's no cushion left in that joint. And it's been really bad lately. I could not get this hole to punch through. So you see how that has a little bit more wiggle room in there? Like, it's got quite a bit of give between the two. All right? I couldn't get my hole punch to punch. And I probably have another hole die cut somewhere that would have been a little bit bigger than this one. So I took out the Bubbles of Joy stamp set and die set, and I used the littlest bubble circle in there for my die. And then that other circle in there probably would work for your little spinner discs. Nevertheless, it just, yeah. I'll discuss that part when I get to that part. But I needed to sand down the top and the bottom of that little slider disc, and then I'm going to attach it to my 65 pound weight printed cardstock from Close to My Heart. This was probably another mistake. I should have gone for that 110 pound or at least an 80 pound Nina cardstock instead of the printed on cardstock. I'm adding some powder to my powder to the back here because I got a little bit of adhesive on it when I ran it through with that little die, and I didn't want it to be sticky. And then we are going to make a little sandwich with that little disc in the middle of the sandwich. And then we are needing to let that dry completely. So, sometimes we need to walk away, right? So I've already cut the little notch on my top panel, and I want to kind of, I shouldn't say hide that, but I don't want it to be stark white underneath it. So I'm just taking a scrap from the piece that I had die cut out of to match on the bottom part there. I've also ink blended on my back panel there, so it kind of matches a little bit better and hides that channel that my pull tab feature is going to be on. I am also going to add back in that part that was die cut out, just so when the pull tab gets pulled out, you're going to see that, and I want it to be as hidden as possible. Does that make sense? Like, I don't want it to be totally noticeable that it's die cut out. Kind of the magic of the interactive card is definitely the fact that it's as seamless as possible. Does that make sense? Yeah. See, it's just not holding for me today. So that bright piece of pink paper is just a piece of Post-it note paper that I cut out with the die cut. That is the, what is it called? It's the stabilizer piece for the pull tab. There we go. I'll get it. Words are hard today. So I'm trying to make sure that it is completely dry before I do this, but I'm on a time crunch here. So my slider is going back and forth very easily. Woohoo, life is good, right? So I am trying to make this one a twist and spin card. I brought in some heavy filament that I bought thinking it would work for this. It did not. It was way too heavy. I left this part in because it does show you how it goes. So you go around the disc 3 times, clockwise, counterclockwise. It depends how you want your creature to spin. Yes, see, I'm telling you, I ended up coming back, doing this again, starting over again. It's not the last time. I'm leaving all of my whoopsies and oopsies in here today. I think we all need to understand that not everything goes perfect all of the time. I've been crafting since I was 8. I've been major card maker, paper crafter since I was in my teens. And so, yeah, I still have days. So I ended up scrapping the extra heavy filament, went back to my thinner filament. Fishing line would work good for this, like a 30-pound test weight, maybe, well, 10, 20, 30-pound test weight. Nothing overly thick. Something that is going to give it a slide. You could use like thread, like a heavier thread or a wax coated thread, but just keep in mind that you want it to be slippery and movable so it actually allows your spinner feature to function properly. See how that works? Is that not amazingly cool? Yeah. So I'm trying to make sure that it's pulled very tight here. I'm going to wrap it again 3 times. I was just making sure that my bat was turning the way that I want him to turn. If I want him to turn the other way, I would wrap it around the other way. And so then I'm going to fold this over and try to make sure that it is extra tight here and extra secure. Add another double-sided score tape on top of it to make sure that it's all good. So I only added 1 layer of Big Mama foam tape. This, I find out later, was a fatal error on my part. Such is life, right? So I'm double securing that, making sure I have lots of sticky on there so it's not gonna give way. And my bat is flying and doing his thing perfectly. I am pleased as punch at this point. It may not have been going good, but it was going very well. Here's where my issue comes in. I attached this one thinking I had enough room for that slider feature. Now keep in mind that I have added that other piece of backer to my back panel, and I have heavier duty cardstock, plus I have 2 thicknesses of that 110-pound cardstock weight. And to, push come to shove, I glued all of it. Yep. And we all know once it is liquid glued, it is there for good. It is there for life. It's all going good, right? And it still worked at this point. And I think it's because it was tight enough that it hadn't gave way. And if I wouldn't have played with it as much as I played with it, it might have made it to the mail and worked a couple of times. I am notorious for playing with my things a lot before they go out because I want to make sure that they're gonna continue to work. Good, bad, I don't know. I guess good in the long run, bad if you were me yesterday. So I'm gonna build my scene because it's all working right. Everything is good as gold here, and yep, I'm good to roll. And so I really hadn't thought past my card to this point. Like, I knew my other bat was going to come and join my other bat down here. I did not like where he ended up, so I needed to stop him at some point. And so I'm going to add this. I did not need to do this because, this was me not planning ahead and not having a full plan of action. Okay. So I decided, okay, I can do, because I knew what I wanted for the sentiment. I wanted it to say, I'm batty for you, or I think you're batty, or something along those lines. And so I added in the sentiment batty in the big word, or the big letters, because I thought that would be cute. And of course, I added them with some black glitter paper, and then I'm going to add multiple layers of cardstock behind them so they're nice and raised and popped up and in your face. I did add a little bit of a off-white shadow so they kind of pick up and come off of that background. Plus, it ties in the white that is around the bats and the other images. And then I'm going to pop up my little bat here. I didn't like my, placement where it was, and so I needed to adjust. So yes, you will see that my background kind of had some oopsies on it, but that's okay. It all got covered up. This is how I create. It's because I don't pre-plan anything. Well, usually. And then I added my cute little spider onto the top. And this is where you will notice it started to not work. You see how it's starting to give way on the top and that string just isn't holding in? It was way too tight. It was getting caught in the track. And I started, so this was last night. So I started it yesterday morning. I had to leave and go do some farm stuff, like stock chopping corn, and I tried pulling it apart last night. I ripped it. And I was kind of thinking, okay, I can just video it, show that it worked, cut out the rest, and say it was done from there, right? Like just show you the finished and call it done and just move on with my life. Well, I don't fake anything. I like to be real. And so as I was, thinking about it this morning in the barn, I was like, I should be able to just cut off that background piece and add another layer of foam tape in there, rewire it, and it should work. So I'm going to show you what I end up doing, because this is real life. I'm I'm stubborn as all get out, and I'm keeping it real, y'all. So yes, I sanded my thingy down again and added it again because, I did use glossy accents this time. That is what she says to use in the video. And I used, collage medium. I think they work about the same, but I think glossy accents might actually stick better to that plastic. I don't know if it does or not. So I need to do damage control at this point because, I've ripped the background. You can't really see it. I know where it is. Nobody else is really going to know where it is in the grand scheme of things, especially once I finished my sentiment. So my layout in my head for my sentiment was different than it ends up being in the finished card, just because I have to cover up where I tore my background. I tried to pull it apart. Remember, I glued it. Yeah, there's no getting glue to come apart. I mean, it's a forever type thing. This is me trying to find my zen. There is a fresh cup of coffee in front of me. Whew, I just got adjusted. How do we know we're getting old? When we fall asleep in the chair on Saturday night, the recliner, and you roll funny, and you end up throwing your back out. I threw my back out so bad that I moved wrong on Monday morning, and it dropped me to my knees in the barn. Like, my knees I just was down, and John's like, "What did you do, woman?" And I'm like, "I don't know." I did go and get adjusted. I'm feeling a little bit better. I still have, if I move wrong, it pinches a nerve and sends me to my knees. But this was after my second adjustment for the week. I'm doing a little bit better now. I'm still old. 41's old, y'all. And of course, my lovely child says, "Well, at least I know what I have to look forward to when I get old." Yeah. So I did end up restringing it when it was all, and because it's not against that background, that A was definitely getting in the way. And this is where I removed that piece that I'd added earlier as my stop, because I wanted it to stop at a certain point. And I wouldn't have had to do that obviously here. And if you look there, you can see on top of the B is where I tore my background. So I'm going in here and doing a little bit of damage control. So I'm just using a makeup brush I picked up at the Dollar Tree. to kind of go in and then just dab on a little bit of that color to mask my little oopsie there. And then I'm going to add in my sentiment, covering up that little area there. And see, nobody needs to know. Granted, if they watch the video, they will know that I messed it up. And then I will add in the other sentiment to the other side there. And so I just want to make sure that this is going to, you know, be where it needs to be. So I did rebuild my A a little bit after I had pulled it apart. And my bat does run into that A there, but it's a little less thick than the rest of my other letters. So it kind of comes down a little bit more there and lands where I need it to land. I did take some one-sided foam, like adhesive backed foam sheet from the dollar store. And then because I already had that double-sided adhesive on the back of my panel, I just added that there, and then I can pull all of this up, and I added in a little tiny piece of Big Mama foam tape onto that bottom part there because it didn't need as much thickness as the rest. And at this point, I was like, I am setting this in my Misty to line it up because it has not been going great. And guess what? I forgot to do. Don't worry, I haven't caught it yet. Have you? So I am going to figure out my pull tab here. I need to add, see, it's working. It goes all the way up to the top. The bat is sleeping on the tree branch there, and he comes down and lands on the top of the Batty. So I'm adding in some white gel pen highlights, and then I'm going to come in and add some black glaze pen to the eyeballs. It really just makes them pop so much. You know, just that little added touch there does so much. And then I need to add a pull down on the bottom. It's going to be very subdued, I guess, when you look at it. I just wanted it to have a little bit of a keyword there. Granted, you'll see it dries back a little bit. And yes, that was the point where I realized I forgot to add back in my backing back there. And so it was stark white. Yeah. So this time I did not add glue to my foam. And so I was able to pull that up a whole lot easier this time around. And then I just glued that in there. And it actually gave that bat just a little bit of a lift that it needed. And so it ends up landing perfectly on that A, or over the A, like I wanted it to from the get-go. So it is awesome now. I'm so happy I didn't ditch it in the trash and start from scratch, because I did save it. It just took a little bit. So there is my completed card today. If you made it all the way through, thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Check me out on Instagram at InkyandScrappy, as I do post other stuff on there that I don't always video. Have a great one.